Good morning, everybody. I am here with my Electrolux Ultra Silencer, and this is kind of a 1 year update, but I feel like I've had this for maybe 2 years, definitely almost 2 years, if it hasn't been the 2 year mark already, or I don't really know exactly when I bought this. I think maybe May of 2016. So it's well overdue for a 1 year update, I believe. Um, so this is one of Electrolux's or Eureka's um, high-end machines. This at the time, this is the Ultra Silencer Deluxe. I don't remember the exact model number. It is um, it doesn't really say it says a model number on here, but it's not the model number that it goes by like on Amazon. They made a silver version of this, but this periwinkle blue one was a little bit higher end. It was like a model above. I don't really know what the difference was. I believe they're almost the exact same thing. They probably are, just a different color, but the numbers are higher on this one model number wise. I think it's like there's a deluxe and then there's not a deluxe, something to that effect. So um I'm just gonna kind of give you guys a rundown. If you want to know more about this, I do have an older video of this when I first got it, or maybe even a couple of videos of this against my Kenmore, I think, too. But anyway, I don't use this canister all that often, and it's not because I choose not to. It's just um some things that I like on a canister are onboard tools. This one doesn't have any onboard the main unit. They're on the handle of the machine. So what sets this one apart from a lot of the other Electroluxes of this brand, Electrolux, is this one actually has the suction and the on-off control mounted on the handle, whereas some of the other models like the Oxygen and the Ultra Active and um, the Ultra others, I don't really remember what the other ones are, is the fingertip controls for everything, and you get a digital display for your speeds. Um, so this is about the same size as like maybe a Miele C2. It's or like the same size as my Miele Titan. It's a little bit taller, right, especially right here in the back. But otherwise, it's a cool vacuum, and the base, or at least the main part of the canister, like the motor, I don't know, the main unit, is actually pretty well made. The wheels are pretty nice. The bag chamber is small, and the bags are kind of small too. I use generic bags just because, and they filter really well. I do have some dirt on here from where I didn't have a bag put on there properly, but otherwise, my goodness, this never likes to stay up. This is one of my complaints about that or this vacuum. Um, this is kind of small, the opening for it, but it is sealed. There's a rubber gasket all around, and there have been some reviews done on some YouTubers. They actually show where this does blow a zero. So it is a sealed unit. Um, but this has like this sound deadening shields. It says sound shield right here, and it shows you how the bag goes on. And this just closes pretty easily. And I find that this goes up and it comes down much easier than Kenmore's do, and even my Miele. The hood of this, or the bag door, is a lot more solid. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of play with it at all, and it doesn't really have any bend to it. So I feel like the construction overall of the main unit is actually a little more impressive than some of the Miele C1 and C2. But of course, they're in a different price category. But I think that this canister is probably around like $500 or $600. So you kind of are getting into the same price range as the Miele C2 Electro Plus, which is like that like ocean blue. I don't remember what they call it, but it's just the C2 model. And what you're getting with this over the C2 is you're getting direct connect everything. The bags are a little smaller, but this is actually, I would say, quieter than my Miele C2. Electronic controls. The cords are about the same length. And you get the same tools, and the attachments clip onto the handle so it's at your hands and your fingertips if you want to get something really quick, whereas on the Miele's it is actually like a collar that goes around the hose, which can kind of get in the way, and you have to remove all that when you need to change the bag, whereas on this you don't. And there is quite a decent amount of dirt in there right now. The electrical connections are connected right here. This is where it comes out of the actual vacuum, and then it feeds in through these prongs here, and then it goes up right here into the vacuum's hose connection. It seals up really nice. It shows you what type bag it uses, and there's actually a variety of bags. I think maybe three different types of bags. The filters are a lot cheaper on this machine as well to replace, and the filter actually stays really clean. I've never changed this filter before, and even the back of this is very clean too. So, and there's a big gasket right here. There's a giant gasket right here. This one's actually a little bigger. And so everything's sealed up very nicely. And, oops, this whole vacuum is actually very nicely made on this part. So the bad news is where it comes to the power nozzle of this vacuum. So over the little while that I've had this, there's some goods and bads. I haven't had any problems with it, except for sometimes when I turn the vacuum off, the brush roll will stay on, the power nozzle will stay on. And then I'll go and use it later on, and it doesn't do that. The quick connect is a little cheap. I mean, you can hear it. This is the quick disconnect lever right here, and then this just pulls up and out. And the problem with this wand, the wand itself is solid. It doesn't have any play in it, and there are two buttons that move together to adjust it, but if you tug on these hard enough, it will just kind of skip the buttons and it will just slide by itself. So if you're vacuuming really hardcore deep pile and you don't have it adjusted correctly, you may end up pulling the wand out farther or even pushing it in. Because this nozzle does clamp onto the carpet quite a bit. Over here you can see where this is just plastic that I never took off. Okay, I was thinking that this was coming up and undone. It's not. I just had some film that I never removed. So it has 3 height adjustments. I think that the height adjustments are perfect on this. They're low, medium, and high, very simple, and that's low, that's medium, and that's high, and then back down to low. I like that, and I like, even though I like how the Ricars, the Simplicities, and the Miele power heads, they're continuous. They go all the way up, and then they go backwards down to low setting. But sometimes on my Miele, I have to adjust to just one setting up, but then I have to vacuum the rest back on low pile. So now I've got to cycle through all the settings almost twice just to be able to get it back to the setting that I need it on. So that's kind of a pain, whereas this has 3 and it just goes in a circle. It just goes low, medium, high, low, medium, high, low, medium, high. But it also drops the nozzle back down, which may cause wear over time. Again, the nozzle has some play in it, but mine hasn't had any electrical issues or malfunctions. I haven't had any problems with the swivel neck. Everything seems to work just fine. And my handle release pedal seems to be made pretty decently too. The swivel on this, you have to have more of like the wand put on, but for it to work well. But there's no dirt or anything that leaks out of it. The underneath hair doesn't really get wrapped around the brush roll. It has a nice center suction spot here too. The belt is kind of off to the one side, and like someone else mentioned, there's no brushes right here to really collect hair and get stuck up underneath like the belt areas. And these are almost like roller skate wheels. This thing glides so quiet across the floors when you're vacuuming just hard floors. And the LED lights on this are super bright. The only thing that I will say that I don't care for is I wish the hose was a little longer, and I wish it wasn't so stiff. I'm not a big fan of these crush-proof hoses on even Miele's or whatever vacuums they decide to put these on. And the reason why is because, especially when they're shorter, they tend to stick up in the air. Look at that snow. Look at that. They tend to stick up in the air and knock stuff over and knickknacks if you're vacuuming around furniture and stuff, and they slap the walls. That's why I tend to like the hoses that you kind of have to baby a little more, because you don't want them to have splits and things. But I prefer a more limp hose, or one that's kind of like wire reinforced, because they tend to hang down and out of the way, so they don't knock stuff over, and they're just easier to work with, I think. But again, I mean, the longer the hose, the less you'll notice that. And to disconnect the hose from the canister on this when I go to store it, because I don't keep hoses attached, is a pain. You really have to tug on it. But I like that this is adjustable. Everything disconnects and connects really easily. I find on my new Eris, it's actually very hard sometimes, and on my TriStar, to disconnect the hose from the wand, because you're pushing a button on the same piece that you're trying to pull off from, rather than on this machine. I'll try and show you. On this machine, you press here and you disconnect. You're keeping both hands off. On an Eris, the disconnect is up here, so you have to push and pull with one hand on the handle, and I just think that that's kind of silly. So I'll turn this on, do a little vacuuming. That's on high too, you can barely hear it. This thing is so much quieter than any vacuum that I have. This is literally the quietest vacuum cleaner that I own. Quieter than the Eris, quieter than the Miele. The Powerhead is about just a little quieter than the Miele, but a lot of folks see those videos and reviews of Miele Powerheads, and they think that Miele Powerheads are super loud, and when you get one home and actually have one, no, they're not loud at all. I could probably bump this up a setting and it would vacuum a little bit better, a little easier to push and pull. So that time the power nozzle did turn off with the vacuum, and it usually only does it if I've been vacuuming for like maybe an extended period of time. There's a woman selling a new power nozzle. It's white though. It's an Electrolux Deep Clean for $5 locally, and I thought about picking it up, but it doesn't match this vacuum. But for a backup, or to use and then keep the original not being used, that'd be nice. But you can see it leaves great carpet lines. So overall, I have not tried out the new Signet, or whatever they call it, the highest end Electrolux. I think it's like $7.99, maybe $6.99. It's white. Looks very similar to this, but they put the handle up on the top now, and it comes with a motorized power brush. For that kind of money, I would probably just recommend going for a Miele. You can see where the brush roll stopped right there. It grooms very well. But when you're talking this price range, you're getting more of a full-size dedicated cleaner compared to like my Miele Titan, whereas you would have to pay almost $300 for the power brush that I have to make it compatible or comparable to this one. But thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.